this is fight 256 in Hua Hin. And I've been fighting down here a little bit recently, which I actually really like. It's just a gym in Hua Hin that does promotions sometimes. So you're just in this field, and it kind of feels like a festival fight, even though they're very small. It's like a super pared down festival fight, which to me is really cool. And I fought twice down here already at this location against the same opponent twice, and then I was told that I was fighting her teammate who I had previously been told I was going to fight, and then again when I got there it was not the girl I thought I was going to fight. They do this thing though where they keep announcing who's on the card, even though that's not who I'm fighting, so they keep saying Petnari even though that's not who I'm fighting, and I had to go find out who my opponent was after the fight. Her name is Khaotommat, which is very cute as a name. Khaotom is like a dessert. It's rice that's cooked in a banana leaf, and it's like got like banana or coconut milk or something in it, and so it's basically she's this dessert fists, which is very cute as a name. This guy who's in my corner was provided by the promoter to help me, and I actually really like him. He's got a like, we're just gonna do this super experienced attitude. The other kid who's helping is pushing the ropes down because he doesn't know that women have to go under the bottom. So unfortunately I hate self-enforcing when people are doing it wrong, and I'm like, you have to do the other way. This is cool. So people train in this ring during the day, and then it becomes a venue some nights when they have the shows. So I didn't know anything about my opponent because she was a replacement and I've never seen her before. So I really had zero expectations for what I would be facing, which I kind of really like. It's a little bit unusual for me for the past few years just because I've fought so many people that I tend to fight the same people eventually over and again. So to have like a completely unknown opponent that I don't know anything about does still happen, but it's something that I get excited about because it's not my norm. This ring is a little bit wonky. It has some dents in it, which is typical of like a training ring. So if you have training and fighting in the same ring, often you'll have like these little dent areas because the rings get used so much. But that's one of the reasons for the Ram Muay, is that because you kind of cover the entire area of the ring, you get to feel where all those little pockets or slippery areas or things like that are. So there's like a little like investigation that goes on when you're doing your Ram Muay, which is cool. You will sometimes have opponents who don't do one. I used to think that it was because they didn't know one. That's true if they're like really little kids, but depending on what the fight venue is, some people who have very nice Ram Muays just don't do them all the time, which I learned over many years fighting in Thailand. I totally thought it was like every time, all the time, because to me it's really important to do. You'll never see someone skip them in Lumpini Rajadamnorn, or most people do them. Like I would say that the vast majority of people do them, but occasionally people skip them and it just doesn't have as much significance to not do it as I would have previously thought when I first came to Thailand. But my Ram Muay is really important to me. I learned it from my very first teacher, Master K, who at the time I met him was a 69-year-old man from Thailand teaching Muay Thai in his basement in New Jersey. He's now in his 80s. He's just absolutely incredible, and the Ram Muay I learned is from him. And when I was fighting in America, because people don't know what it is, for like time, or because people find it boring, or because people don't understand what it is, they would disallow the Ram Muay before fights, and I always had this like, fuck you, I'm gonna do it anyway. So unless I'm strictly forbidden, which doesn't happen in Thailand, they'll tell you to do it fast if you're on TV or something. I've always done my Ram Muay. It's very important to me. went over to crack my back on the ropes and they were so loose that it like didn't do anything. It was very funny. So I was in this like, I have no idea what to expect so much that I did not even notice that my opponent is southpaw. I actually heard Kevin's commentary, I think like midway through the first round, where I was like, oh God, is she actually southpaw? Like I didn't make the register in my head. I'm trying to kind of like use things that I've been working on. I don't really kick in fights. I have a hard time kicking in sparring. So I was thinking to myself that I wanted to like try in this fight to see if I could get my kick off, which because we're mixed stance is actually a good opportunity because my right leg is her open side. But I still need to be going left the way that I go with either orthodox or southpaw. She teeps, I teep. I'm trying to like keep my foot a little bit closer to her, but I wasn't thinking to keep it on the outside, which would have helped me kind of cut her off a little bit more. But it's round one, so there's not a lot of need for high pressure. I'm just trying to kind of like feel my distance and keep closer than I normally do. There, when I grabbed her and I turned her, I felt how much I can turn her, which is one of the things that I try to do early in these like feeling out rounds. People who have a certain style will like feel out what their best weapons are and how they work against somebody. So by getting into the clinch in the first round, I can feel what she has as a defense for it. There, I almost never get that right kick. I lean back really hard on my kicks, so I was really proud of myself that I was staying in close enough for my kicks to reach where they should. She's actually the one grabbing me in the clinch, which is not usual, but because she's grabbing me and I'm kind of like countering her, I'm getting actually in a pretty good position when she grabs me. So not a lot of like not a lot of fatigue in that first round. I usually am not tired after a first round, but being able to like stay calm and kind of think about what I want to be doing was a nice thing about this fight in terms of not feeling a great deal of pressure by an opponent who's 7 or 8 kilos bigger than me. I think this opponent is maybe 2 kilos bigger. My corner was basically like, kick. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do also. But in early rounds of a fight, there's not usually a lot of advice going on just because it doesn't matter so much at a point, and people don't really bring out their full arsenal until the scoring rounds anyway. So your corner won't really be telling you to do a whole lot of things until the third round, and they don't really have a lot of advice from what your opponent is doing in the early rounds unless they're doing something that you seem to not be able to solve or are really bothered by. So some guy was like speaking broken English to me, and this guy down in the corner just screamed, "Sylvie isn't a Farang, Sylvie is Thai, just speak Thai to her." It's pretty funny. Here I'm going left a little bit better. I'm kind of, see how my left foot is like pacing out? I think by now I've figured out that she's southpaw, but I'm not entirely sure. But I'm using my front arm to reach towards her, which is good. I'm still using my front leg lead kick, which on a southpaw doesn't really make that much sense. But my right leg is coming after, which is good. She's got a good dodge away. Like, she's really good at taking just enough distance. She's not like running back all the time. And she's got a nice kind of forward lean that she's able to strike out of. She's timing me. She's got a pretty good teep. I got knocked back by her teep a few times. Oh, I don't usually land head kicks, but that one was pretty good. That's right after saying that my front lead kick against a southpaw isn't necessary, and then it kind of like goes over her shoulder and lands. It's good. There was kind of like a question mark kick that I learned from Gansok. Gansok is the reason I fight in Hua Hin, actually, as he has a friend down there who he hooked me up with, but you kind of go to kick the leg and then don't really kick the leg and you bring it up top. So here she's trying to lock me out, and she actually had a good step down and then knee, but she doesn't know how to swim to a lot of different positions in the clinch, whereas I have a much higher clinch vocabulary. So when we're in the clinch, I know how to change into different positions, which gives me a huge advantage in that distance. At a farther distance, I'm trying to get better. So this was a fight that I was able to play with that longer distance a little bit more, but she's still outstriking me a lot of moments in that distance because I stay too far away. There we go. My hands are coming together a little bit. We have Ajahn Gimyu, who was a pad holder for Gansak and for my trainer Kurnu, and he's been holding boxing pads for me. So I was really happy to have my hands come out a little bit in this fight, given that I've been working with him. I liked her attitude. Like, even when she kind of would shrink away from something or get hit pretty good by something, she totally had this like game coming back attitude. I love fighters like that. She's trying to pull away from me and get back on the ropes, and I'm trying to pull her off the ropes. I created that distance and landed that knee, which is something that I've been yelled at for like 7 years, to create distance before throwing knees. Again, very small, positive things that you've been working on for a long time coming out a little bit are like very, very tiny victories. It's always funny to see what arrangement venues have in terms of the like metal thing that they put on the ground to catch all the water, and then they'll have like a bench or a stool or a chair. Depending on what they have you sit on, totally determines how much time you're actually going to have in the corner. Because depending on who's in your corner, getting that chair over the top rope or getting a stool under the bottom rope, or like one of these stools that kind of like is attached to the ring and flips out, all of these things actually affect how much time you have sitting in the corner, which is not something you would think about ever. I'm pretty relaxed in this fight, which is nice. I don't have that opportunity very often because my opponents are usually so much bigger. This is a good chance to be able to work on things simply not being molded by someone who's so much bigger and having to deal with all of those obstacles. I have this mouthpiece that Kevin had me get. It's molded for my teeth. It's really good. You actually don't have to take it out between rounds, but when they pour water on it to put it in my mouth between rounds, it always gets chunks of ice. And so when it goes on my teeth, it like kills my gums. So now my pace has picked up a little bit, and I actually like this distance that I'm fighting at here. She's got a nice like combination coming forward and finishing with a kick. That kind of really helps your highest scoring point at the end of it land. She's trying to lock me out with her knee when we get into the clinch. I'm batting her guard down and punching over it. This is something that I do against much bigger opponents, but it's a little bit harder to see because I stay farther away. So this distance that I'm doing here is allowing me to kind of like build on the strikes that I'm throwing instead of resorting to single strikes. There I tripped her down and she didn't go all the way to the ground as the ref caught her, so it was a very dominant position that didn't have an actual landing on the ground throw. I'm kind of still, even though I'm not intimidated by her size, as I keep saying, I'm still stopping on the porch a little bit, which goes to show that it's not actually fear of the bigger opponent. It's like a mindset that you've practiced for so long that regardless of who's in front of you, you're going to make those same like pausing at a certain distance. It's really good to know in terms of like learning how to train away from that. Here I got a nice grab and I'm controlling her arm with my right arm, which allows me to put her in a position that I got a really nice knee in there, and the ref saw that she just couldn't really respond to where this fight was going, and so he stopped it at that point. So this is a ref stoppage TKO. She had a little bit of blood in her mouth when I went over to hug her. I think that was from one of my punches. She wasn't wearing a mouthpiece. Some people don't. They opt out of it because they think that mouthpieces make it harder to breathe. But coming down, I felt like I had an opportunity of versatility in this fight that I don't very often get to have. So I was pretty happy to be able to, in the ring, in a fight, feel those different pressures that I'm always trying to create in my training. And it's very, very hard to do against the people that I fight. This guy was asking me where I train. He thought my gym was in Hua Hin. And when I said Petchrungruang, this guy in the black shirt who works at this gym was like, that's a really good gym. It's a
1,
good
2,
gym.
3, go!
It's very nice. And then this is Thai style, right? So you get out of the ring, take your gloves off, and the next fight just comes up. So it's like a very fast turnover.
It's good she got out without a
As I was walking back to the mat, I was going to be fighting again in just a couple of days. So I was hurrying over to the mat. And this guy stopped me on my way over. He's also a promoter. And he wanted to get my contact information to have me come fight for him.
Yeah,
I completely misunderstood where his fight was going to be. I thought he was in Concane, but I think he's actually just from Concane. But so he and the guy who's sitting next to him both got my contact information to fight for them. And this is kind of how I've been able to do what I do, booking my own fights and fighting all around Thailand, is that in making it a priority to learn Thai, to learn to speak, read, and write Thai, I've been able to, when I fight, if there's a promoter who's like, I want you on my show, I can make a contact with that person, and then, you know, they can tell me when they have a show, or I can ask them, do you have a show, and it moves around. So like for a while I was fighting for this female promoter up in Mahasarakam, and then she stopped promoting, so I wasn't able to keep working with her, but this is kind of the like endless networking and moving around. So I get this guy's phone number, and then the guy in the orange is like, I'm having a birthday show, come give me your phone number as well. It's pretty nice.
The country is she's constantly networking.
So Kevin is doing the live stream. He's giving commentary, kind of explaining the same thing of like how everywhere you go, you have this possibility for networking, which because I represent myself and I'm able to speak to people myself, I can do this. Usually it would be your gym making these connections and setting up your fights for you.
She must be giving her information.
The guy in the orange shirt didn't have line, which is like how I communicate with everybody. So I had to write my name on a piece of paper that made me feel like this was so analog, old school. To like actually write your name and phone number on a piece of paper was crazy. He's sweet though. I was like, yeah, call me for your fight. That's great. I ended up fighting for the guy in the button-down shirt who's behind me. I misunderstood him. I thought he wanted me to fight in December, and then he, like a few days before, when he actually wanted me to fight, was like, no, Friday.
Just say goodbye.
Oh, shit. This is my new low blow sponsor, showing Onyx MMA and low blow as my sponsors. And then back to the mat. This is my corner man, like already sitting there on his phone, like never a big deal after fights. This is one of the greatest things about fighting in Thailand, is that it's literally a way of life. It's like going to work on a Tuesday.
In the middle of the grass field.
And everything just functions and keeps going. Like people don't get super excited or disappointed in either direction. That's been something that I've consistently tried to work with myself on. I don't expect people to get really excited, but I get really disappointed. And I think a lot of people, when they lose, they're like, oh, I let everyone down. He would be doing exactly the same thing if I had lost this fight. Like, nobody really cares that much. Here's Kevin from like the back of the venue. You can see kind of how it's laid out. It's totally like just a Tuesday afternoon type of thing. It's very, very cool. There's a kitten that joined us at this venue a couple of times ago. So I just hurry up and change my clothes and off we go. Hey, we're in the car getting the hell out of here. We're in Hua Hin. Kevin and I love to leave right after fighting. We make a joke that it's like in the movie Warrior when Tom Hardy just fucking busts at the cage, like between his fights. It's my style. This is
It is Sylvie's style.
This is fight 256, and it's in Hua Hin. I was supposed to fight this girl named Petnari, who I've actually been booked to fight twice now and have not fought twice now. But this was a replacement fighter. I went and got her name. I don't know it, but I'll write it down because I have it written down. But it's one of these kind of exciting things where you just come down here. Just like this promoter contacted me like 4 days ago,
Yeah, maybe 3 days.
and was like, "Can you come down and fight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to," because we're actually trying to figure out how to get my fights for this month. I have another one on Monday, and it's Muay Thai right around now, which is probably my favorite Thai holiday actually. It's the opposite of Songkran, the one with all the water everywhere. This one's really subdued and quiet, and you like float things on water.
Fire and stuff.
Really nice. It's like the difference between a thunderstorm and like a beautiful quiet snowstorm or something like that. So this was a win by knockout or ref stoppage, I guess, in round 3, I think.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
3 or 4, yeah.
3 or 4. I think it was 3. But she was around my size, like 48 maybe.
That's not your size, by the way.
That's.
You think that's
I'm
your size.
46. I
Yeah.
say 48 is my size.
She is
which
48, but she might have been more, like 49. It doesn't matter.
Not big.
She wasn't that bad.
She wasn't big.
Yeah, it
But
wasn't
what
that
was
bad.
exciting about that is that a couple of days ago at my gym, we have Ajahn Gimyu, who's 78 years old, and he was the trainer of my trainer, Krunu, and also Gansak, who was Fighter of the Year 2 times. And if you ever want to see adult male Thai men swoon, say Gansak. And they're like, oh my god, I love Gansak.
Also your trainer.
Gansak was also my trainer before we moved to Thailand, and I super love Gansak. He's very sweet, and he's actually the reason we fight in Hua Hin. He introduced me to Kai Sui.
And he's also the reason why you know Karahat.
He's also the reason I know Karahat. That's very cool.
Because you were fighting in Hua Hin,
Totally.
and he brought this quiet man.
And then he's connected to my trainer now.
In 200 meters,
Gimyu.
turn left.
So, Pinu has been trying to get me to do all of these things for 5 years in my fighting, and sometimes you just need like little pushes. Like bringing Diesel Noi to the gym totally injected this energy that like Pinu tells the boys to do things, but Diesel Noi will make the boys do things. It was kind of like that. So a couple of days ago, I was sparring with Champ, who's really frustrating for me because he's very evasive and kicks a lot. He's a counter fighter. And my task was just to stay close, like keep my hands on him, let him kick first, and then just like step in, like basically be the Terminator. And I've tried to do this for many years. I've been like, I'm gonna spar like this for many years, but it took Ajahn Gimyu, 78 years old, coming over the ropes and being like, Sylvie, he calls me Jimmy actually, because that's what Pinu's dad calls me. Gimme, stay there, let him kick, do the thing. And Kevin was watching and he was like, fuck, I have never seen you look like that in the sparring, right?
Never seen it.
It was crazy.
Never
So
seen it.
when I found out that I had a replacement opponent tonight who is not as big as the one I was anticipating, not that much smaller, but I was like, I'm gonna try to do what I did in that sparring. And I didn't, but I did some of it.
You did some of it.
Which is really, really good because some is exciting. Some is more than nothing. So that's update for fight 256. Win, thank you guys for watching live. Thank you to my sponsors, Onyx MMA and now Low Blow. And thank you to all of my patrons who make this possible. And I'll see you guys in 2 days because we're fighting on Monday. So
That's right.